Hey y'all, this is Jamie. Welcome back to my channel. So today's video is the first video in my new series, Makeup Throughout History, and today we are going into the 1920s. So I'm going to be talking about kind of the history of makeup in the 20s, what were the trends, what was invented in the 1920s as far as makeup, and then I'm going to be doing a little makeup tutorial for y'all for 1920s makeup. But before we get into that, make sure that you subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified when I upload a new video. I am going to be continuing this series on until we get to the current decade that we're in right now, which I think is called the 2010s. I think we're in the 2010s. And without further ado, let's get into this. Alright, so first things first, the lighting. I know it looks very dark back here. It is like pouring outside, which I love. Rainy days are my absolute favorites, but they're not great for filming because I use natural light coming in the front of my house. So I'm actually surprised that it's this light because in real life it looks very dark in this room. But so sorry about the lighting. Also, I know that I should be wearing something really like 20s like and all that, but I am cold because it is like in the high 30s, low 40s here, which November in Georgia is usually maybe 50s, maybe. Last year, week of Thanksgiving, it was in the 60s. So we usually don't get this cold this early. I'm not complaining because I actually like when the weather gets a little cooler. I was not expecting this. When I have my finished look, we will include the hair and I'll get into something a little bit more, not like hermit-like. Alright, so for the 1920s, this was known as the flapper era. Women were a little more confident, women were asserting their power a little bit more in the 1920s, and they did that through makeup. So makeup was not invented in the 20s, it had been around for a while. In fact, some of the brands that are still popular today, like L'Oreal, Maybelline, those were actually invented in like the 1910s. So those had already been in existence. Makeup was already in existence, but it was more to enhance natural beauty. But in the 1920s, makeup started being used to change the way that you look. So this is when they created an artificial face, is what they called it. So it started being used to cover things up. It started being used to kind of change features rather than enhancing natural beauty. And I believe 1920s is also the time in which pretty much every department store and every pharmacy had a makeup counter. During this time, it also was no longer a stigma to wear makeup. So before the 1920s, if you wore makeup, you were considered a harlot, or you were considered kind of a woman of the night if you wore makeup, or if it was super obvious that you were wearing makeup. That stigma was kind of gone in the 1920s. So I'm going to go ahead and scoot you guys closer. I'm going to start on this makeup look and going to kind of explain some things as I'm doing it. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so one thing that was kind of cool about the 1920s is that was when sunblocks were first invented. So they were first invented by Elizabeth Arden, which is a brand that is still in existence and very popular today, and then Helen Rudenstine. Those were the two to first invent sunblocks because the suntan and sunburn look were very in. So I think that was their kind of response to that. So I did already apply some, I didn't apply just straight up sunscreen. I applied a moisturizer, my Aveeno moisturizer that has SPF in it. So we did already apply that. So the first thing I'm going to do is dealing with the eyes. So in the 1920s, it was very, how many times can I say the 1920s? So the smoky eye was the thing in the 1920s. So usually cool tones, black, gray, things like that, silvers were used. I am going to go more of the brown route. I'm still going to use kind of more of a cool tone brown, but we're going to go ahead and do a smoky eye. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and use the ABH Soft Glam palette. They did not have this in the 20s. They didn't really have palettes in the 20s. They mostly just put like some kind of color on their lids. I'm going to first go in with orange soda right here, and I'm going to put that through my crease. Alright, so now that we have a bit of a transition shade, a bit of a lighter shade to go in the crease, I am going to go into the shade Cypress Umber. It's this dark, more cool tone brown shade right here. And I'm actually going to grab more of a, this is still kind of a crease brush, but it's more of a flat crease brush. And I'm gonna grab that on there, and I'm gonna lay that down all over my lid. Alright, so now that we have a pretty good base of it on the lids, I'm going to go into that same shade, the Cypress Umber, but with more of a smaller blending brush. And I'm going to grab just a little bit of it and take that through the crease. Now this doesn't have to be like super neat, precise, because that was kind of the look in the 20s. Was to just have like a bunch of stuff on your eyelids. In fact, a lot of them went almost up to their eyebrows with their eyeshadow. Alright, so then I'm going to kind of go into both Cypress Umber and the Orange Soda, and I'm just going to take that through the crease to try and blend those two shades together. Alright, so I'm actually going to leave it like that on the upper lashes. I don't think they used much in the way of shimmery shades. I don't even know if they really had shimmery shades in the 20s. So I'm going to leave this as kind of an all matte look. I'm not going to do any inner corner highlight or brow bone highlight or anything like that. I'm going to go ahead and go into the lower lashes. So I'm first going to take that same fluffy blending brush that I had, and I'm pretty much going to do the exact same thing that I did with the lids. I'm going to go into Orange Soda, and I'm going to kind of blow that out along the lower lash line. So then I'm going to go into the shade Cypress Umber, that other shade that we used, and I'm going to grab more of a precise brush, and I'm going to put that along my lower lash line. So then I'm going to grab kind of a smaller fluffy blending brush, and I'm just going to blend that out. So then, as far as eyeliner, so eyeliner became a really big thing in the 1920s because of the discovery of King Tut's tomb. So a lot of Americans in the 1920s were very obsessed with kind of the Egyptian culture because of that discovery that was made in the 20s. Eyeliner actually first appeared in the 20s. So I am going to go ahead and use the Avon True Color Glimmer Sticks in the shade Intense Brown, and I'm going to kind of go on my waterline, and I'm going to tight line this as well. Alright, so mascara was also something that was a new rage in the 1920s. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Essence Super Curl Mascara. So false eyelashes weren't yet a thing in the 20s, so we will not use those. I don't use those anyways. I don't know why I said that. I don't use them anyways. Alright, so that is it for the eyes. What do we think? I really actually like this. I've never done a smoky eye before because I always thought that that was just too much eyeshadow for my face and my eyes. But I actually kind of like this. It makes my eyes pop, I think. We're going to move on to the rest of the face. So for the cheeks, rouge, which is what they called blush back then. They didn't actually call it blush. The thing to do with blush was to use way too much. And to put it in just circles on the front of the cheeks. So nowadays we put blush kind of going along the cheek, kind of going to the back towards the temple. So starting at the apples of the cheeks, but we kind of bring it back. Back then they put it like literally in a circle. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Wet n Wild Color Icon blush. This is in the shade Pearlescent Pink, and I'm going to really load up on this. Alright, so moving on to the lips. It is in the style of the Cupid's bow lip. So that was the really popular style of the 20s. Almost that like heart shape on your lips. Underlining your lips was the in thing. Something to kind of accentuate your Cupid's bow. So in order to get that look, I kind of want to have a blank slate. So you can do this with foundation, you can do this with concealer. I'm going to kind of get foundation lips first, so that we can start with a blank slate and kind of create the shape of the lips that we want. So I'm gonna start with just putting some foundation on the back of my hand. And I'm going to grab a beauty sponge and I'm gonna grab some of that with the back of it and I'm just gonna go in on my lips with this. So at this point, you could line your lips with a pencil liner. I'm just going to grab like a little tiny brush and I'm gonna grab my lip shade, which this one that I'm using right now is from the Avon lipstick, the True Color lipstick in the shade Cherry Jubilee. And I'm gonna grab a little bit of that on my brush and I'm gonna basically trace out the outline of my lips. And then we're gonna kind of cut it short a little bit before we get to the corners of the lips. And we're gonna kind of underline the lips a little bit. Alright y'all, so this is the finished product. So I went ahead and curled my hair a little bit. Put a little bit of curl in it, put half of it back. I think wearing shorter hair was really in starting in the 1920s, that kind of bob haircut. If you had long hair, kind of putting a bit of a wave in it was really in. Putting kind of pinned back with like a big clip was really in. That is the finished product. I hope you guys enjoyed it. So to end this video, I decided that in each video in my series, I would have kind of a timeline of important events that happened in makeup or in the beauty industry for each year in that particular decade. So let's go ahead with the timeline for the 1920s. All right, so in 1920, Max Factor, the brand, began referring to products as makeup. So literally to make one's face up. So before 1920, they used to be just called cosmetics. In 1921, Chanel No. 5 was invented. In 1922, Q-Tex developed liquid and powder polish for the nails. In 1923, the swivel lipstick was invented by James Mason Jr. So pretty much those bullet lipsticks that we all know and love today. In 1924, the eyelash curler was invented. In 1925, orange became a popular rouge color in makeup, whereas berry and rose tones were really popular before. In 1926, Helena Rubinstein released Cupid's Bow, a self-shaping lipstick that forms a perfect Cupid's bow as you apply. In 1927, paraben, the preservative, was introduced to the US. So it was not invented in the 20s, it was invented before that, I think somewhere in Europe. But it was introduced in the United States in 1927. So paraben, as some of y'all know, is a preservative that is used basically, I mean, to preserve, to make our makeup last a little bit longer. But they have found that that is actually a harmful chemical. So nowadays, a lot of brands and a lot of products are paraben free, which is a good thing. So if you see anything that says paraben free, that is actually good. In 1928, it was the rise of the suntan. So a lot of magazine articles were now devoted to getting a suntan. Coco Chanel kind of made that popular. In 1929, Maybelline introduced its first eyeliners, eyebrow pencils, and eyeshadows. So that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe to my channel before you leave and hit that notification bell so you can be notified when I upload a new video. Also make sure to give this a thumbs up if you liked it. Thank you so much for watching and I will see y'all in my next video. Bye y'all.